Yesterday, we introduced you to Bradley Birkenfeld, the UBS whistleblower, and tonight he'll describe how, while a private banker at UBS, he was trained to rub elbows with the rich and famous among Americans and to get them to open Swiss bank accounts where they could hide their wealth from the IRS. But an internal document he discovered soon changed the playing field dramatically. Eamon Javers has the second part of our whistleblower series.
This is the actual 3-page document that caused me to come forward and whistleblow.
It's a memo detailing strict guidelines for UBS Swiss bankers with American clients, and one that Bradley Birkenfeld says the bank quietly posted on its internal server without alerting employees.
And you were doing all the stuff that this document tells you can't do.
They were promoting it.
They told you to do it.
And they were paying for it.
Birkenfeld says he felt as if he, his colleagues, and their clients were all being set up.
I went to my boss and I actually confronted him and almost got physical because I grabbed
Physical?
Yeah, I grabbed him by the shirt. I said, I want an answer to this. This is bullshit.
What did he say?
He said, well, don't rock the boat. I said, I'll take you outside right now.
Angry and frustrated, Birkenfeld says he started copying and hiding documents. Then he resigned and hired a lawyer who started reaching out to the Department of Justice and other U.S. authorities. Birkenfeld describes the DOJ's response as lukewarm at best.
They poo-pooed it. We don't know if he's a whistleblower. He's probably just a tipster. And
still, he says he practically gave them the keys to the UBS vaults.
I gave them PowerPoint presentations, internal memorandum, lists of all the bankers, their phone numbers, the hotels they stayed at, the phone numbers they used on the mobile phones.
He was instrumental in the beginning of the unraveling of Swiss bank secrecy. There's no question about that.
Scott Michael is an attorney specializing in tax litigation.
It started with Brad Birkenfeld, where the unraveling of bank secrecy went from a small group of cases to UBS generally, to other banks in Switzerland, to the Swiss banking community as a whole.
Birkenfeld's inside information has so far resulted in some of Switzerland's biggest and best-known banks paying about $3 billion in penalties and caused more than 50,000 Americans to confess to secretly stashing money offshore. The price for their actions, a whopping $7 billion in penalties to date. Yet little more than 100 bankers and clients have been indicted, and of those, only a handful have received any prison time at all. The names of the vast majority of those tax cheats are still a well-kept secret under IRS offshore voluntary disclosure program rules.
Nearly all of them had to admit that they were breaking the law, but in exchange for that, they received protection from the Internal Revenue Service against criminal prosecution.
It's an open wound for Birkenfeld, who was indicted by the Justice Department.
I gave you the largest and longest-running tax scandal in U.S. history, and you indict me? Why didn't you get anybody else? Non-prosecution agreements, secret for all these other people who just weren't indicted? Why? What happened? What, you guys lost the files? What, they fell down the drain? The dog ate it?
UBS blames people like Birkenfeld, who it points out was sentenced to 40 months in prison after being convicted of aiding and abetting tax fraud and for lying to U.S. authorities. The bank says the problems are now behind it. But what about Birkenfeld himself?
And guys, Brad Birkenfeld himself ended up making a lot of money after he did that prison time. Tomorrow night, I'll tell you a little bit about how he's spending that money and what he plans to do next, Tyler.
What's he doing now? I mean, that's probably tomorrow, but
right,
give me a hint.
I'll give you a little hint. He lives in New Hampshire. He got a $104 million payout from the IRS because of his whistleblowing. He's entitled to a piece of what the government got as a result of his actions. So that added up to $104 million. He is arguing, however, that he and his lawyers are arguing that he is entitled to a little bit more money than that, maybe a lot more money, maybe as much as $1 billion as a result of all that money that came back to U.S. coffers because of his whistleblowing.
He got rewarded and sent to jail.
Same guy by the same
Tangled
government,
story.
paid and sent to jail.
Eamon Javers, we'll be watching tomorrow night. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Tyler.